I'm LaDonna Lockard, and this is MaxConvos. I'm back again today with Brian Vieaux. Brian, you are the guest that I have had on here the most by a long shot. And it's because one, you're one of my favorites, but two, you're definitely a fan favorite. People love the information that you always have to share. Last time you were here, you had just taken over the president role at MISMO. Now we're a few months into it. How are you feeling?
I feel great. I'm excited, more excited today than I was when I joined. And I've been telling people, LaDonna, that it's everything I expected and 20 times better. And it's better because of the people. And we can get into that as we dive into the world of MISMO.
I love that. I'm so happy to hear it. You deserve to be in somewhere that celebrates having you there. And so I'm so glad to hear that. I want to talk to you about kind of some initiatives coming up with MISMO. I know that one of the common themes with them has been the language of lending. How are the standards evolving to support innovation in origination, servicing, and compliance in 2026?
Yeah, I think to get to that, it's good to just do a little history lesson on how we got
Please.
to where we are. So MISMO is this is our 26th year as an organization, as a nonprofit. We exist for and by the industry, and what that means is the for part I think makes sense. We are here for the mortgage industry, but the work that gets done by the mortgage industry. So
Hmm.
when I talked about the people part of MISMO being like even better than I expected, it's the community that makes up MISMO. So there's only 6 of us inside of MISMO proper. There's a handful of partners and contractors that work with us, but then there's hundreds of volunteers, experts from the industry that make up the work groups that get the stuff done inside of MISMO. They're the ones that, come up with the problem statement and then work as a team across the industry to create solutions that result in data standards. And so, without people being willing to put their time, effort, and sometimes dollars into it, we don't advance, for the better of the industry. So I just, I'd like to come on and thank our community first and foremost for being who they are and being selfless in with their time and expertise. I
No, I
know that your
appreciate
question
that.
was really around like where are we going in 26? So, as we think about the power of AI, everybody's talking about where AI is going to impact their business. Everybody's business is being impacted. If you weren't using AI in 2025, sorry, you kind of missed out. I think everybody has been using it to some degree. Um, when I think about MISMO and I think about data standards in particular, I always go back to the fact that any model you use, and you could even say desktop underwriter, that's a model of sorts.
Right.
If you put bad data into DU, you will get a bad output, and it will be an output that you can't rely on. And that's no different than when we use AI across any part of our business, but especially across the loan manufacturing process. If we
Mhm.
can't trust the source data that's going into these models, then we're not going to be able to trust the output. And so we're never going to get benefit from AI from an efficiency perspective. So there's a lot of focus today around at the company level, at the mortgage company level in particular, and at the vendor level, making sure that the data is of the highest quality, because that's the only
Hmm.
way we're really gonna get the benefit of AI. And that's where I see down the road incremental benefit when we start to trust the output and not recheck the checkers along the way.
No, I think that's fantastic. And I know part of what you've been doing, one of your early initiatives has really been to bring in different people outside of kind of those typical key players that maybe you would expect to be involved in it. How has that initiative been going? Where have you been looking, and how can people assist you in that who may be
Love,
hearing this?
yeah, I love that. I've been talking a lot about 3 A's: awareness, adoption, and alignment. We already talked about a little bit of adoption. Opportunities like this help build awareness. But alignment, I think, is the most interesting of the three A's. And I'll use I'll use the most recently produced or published standard, which is the mortgage compliance data set,
Mhm.
also recognized as MCD. So the MCD was published in its current form in mid-December, and so it's now ready for industry adoption. And so what is the MCD? Well, let's start with what led to this work group being created and this work product being created. So about 3 years ago, a large mortgage company came to MISMO almost at the same time that the Conference of State Bank Supervisors, the CSBS, which is the trade association for all the state regulators.
Don't I know it?
Yes, you do. So CSBS came to MISMO almost at the same time that this large mortgage company came to MISMO and said, "We have this problem." The mortgage company said, "We have this problem. We're licensed in multiple states. We're asked to produce a data set that's unique to each state. It takes, it's taking way too much resource time to create this same set of data in a slightly different format for each state." So that was their problem statement that quote unquote industry brought to MISMO. CSBS was bringing a problem statement from its members, the states, saying, "We need help with creating a standard that will allow us to actually build a tool that all of us can use that should take the cost of regulating down as well." And so it's rare that you have like a problem that exists for regulators, but also literally exists for the entities that it regulates. And MISMO became the place to solve that problem together. And I frame that story because now what we see 3 years later, as we look back on it, we had lenders, and specifically we had legal compliance experts within the lending community at the table. We had technologists, so vendors, LOS providers, compliance technology platform providers. And then we had regulators, not just CSBS, but 15 or 20 individual state regulators were literally in this 3-year work group collaborating to create what is now this MCD. And so, if you think about the outcome being the standard that's been created, because all the participants, all the cohorts were at the table at the same time, the likelihood of adoption just gets escalated because the people that need to adopt it, frankly, are the states, but they were part of the process. They were
Right.
there to create it. And so I think as we think about standards going forward, that becomes kind of the poster child, if you will, for a successful creation of a standard is when you can have the end, whoever needs to be there at the end that's going to adopt in the process of creating, because it's gonna make the adoption process that much stronger. And so,
Absolutely.
why is this important for licensees, for originators? I think for lenders, the way I would be thinking about this is if today you have a resource, let's just say you have one full-time employee that all they do is answer requests from state and then produce a data set. And depending on how many states you are in, if instead of producing 10 or 20 unique data sets, you now produce one that gets shared 10 or 20 times, you
Game
just freed
changer.
up 10 or 15, maybe 20% of that FTE's time. Now you can actually have them do risk management things that are going to make your company stronger and the quality of your output better. And so this MCD really, I think, has a tangible benefit for every lender of all sizes. And then what does it mean for individual loan officers? Well, look, if your company can save dollars
Mhm.
anywhere in their manufacturing process, including in the legal compliance part of their business, that ultimately gives them the ability to be more competitive
For
with
sure.
the price and the rate they put on the street for you. So this really benefits everybody. When we have the MCD get to a stage of full adoption.
No, I love that. We are over time. It was totally worth it though, because we did need that context. And I do think that that helps really frame up in people's mind exactly what you're looking to do and why you're looking to go outside of the scope of the traditional players and what maybe would have been how you would have gone about some of those working groups, if you will. I want to jump over. Let's go do a take it to the max so that we can really unpack this a little bit more. But as always, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to have you back in a few months where we can do an update and we can just see how everything's going. So until then, thank you so much again for being here, Brian. I'm LaDonna Lockard, and this is MaxConvos.
For more on this and all of today's top stories, go to nationalmortgageprofessional.com.